Sandwich. I am so excited. I have a judge that I'm interviewing today. I cannot wait to have her tell us her story. She's a judge in Gwinnett. You may know who she is. You may not know. So find out after this video. Welcome to Care Sandwich, the podcast where we dive into the success journeys of law firm owners across the country. I'm Margarita Everline, your host and the founder of Marketing Boss, a fractional chief marketing officer firm for law firms. On this show, we'll explore the challenges, strategies, and victories that have shaped law firms and how they wrap every interaction with care. Because we believe that caring isn't just a value, it's a strategy for success. So grab your favorite sandwich, sit back, and let's dig into a conversation filled with insight, inspiration, and of course, a lot of care. All right, everybody, help me welcome to the virtual stage my special guest for today.
Hello, hello.
So you are a judge in Gwinnett, and I am fascinated to know, how did that happen? What did you do? Tell us about yourself, your career. How'd you make it to be a judge?
Well, yes, thank you so much, first of all, for having me. I'm very excited to have this opportunity. I think my path to the bench is a little unconventional. I did not at all grow up seeing this as sort of the trajectory of sort of where I would end up. I grew up in the inner city of Chicago, and I actually knew from a young age that I was going to be a lawyer. I always had sort of this, eyes wide open. I need to go out there and fight, injustices and do all of that important work. But I didn't really have a blueprint. I never knew, an attorney. I didn't really know how to make it happen. But I was lucky enough to find a mentor along the way. And so as a public defender, I did that work in DeKalb County for about 6 years. And it was probably the most insightful sort of part of my career. And, I jumped, right in advocating for people and doing the work that I really, thought I was meant to do with my career. But then things shift, I started having a family and I wanted something a little different at that point in my life. So I went into private practice. I continued to do criminal defense work, and then ultimately added family law and a couple of other practice areas to my practice. And then my career shifted again. I ended up becoming a senior staff attorney with a judge who I admired very much. And that was really the first time that I thought, maybe this could be something that I could see in my future. I really sort of being on the back end of what happens in our justice system. And while I loved advocating for people and sort of telling my clients stories in court in my life, that I thought, this could be something, that I could do. But, I just didn't see a lot of women, and certainly not a lot of women of color when I was any, to be honest. And so, here I am. I was lucky enough to having been appointed in 2020 by the Gwinnett County Chief Magistrate Judge here in Gwinnett, along with the elected Superior Court judges here in Gwinnett. And I've been serving on the Magistrate Court bench ever since. So that is a really long way of saying I ended up on the bench because that's where I'm supposed to be. But, I never would have thought it was even possible as a little girl.
That's very inspiring. And what I'm hearing in your story is that you focused on the next step in front of you, and it got you to there. I think so many times when we think about achieving big things, we think about from where we are to where we want to go. But what I heard from you and your story is you did the right thing in the moment and you pursued justice in the moment with what you had in front of you, and look where it got you. I think that's so wonderful. So tell us how.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how do your
Um,
experiences as a attorney with all those practice areas help you do your work?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that, it wasn't planned for me to sort of take the path that I took. I think, like you said, I just kind of took took it one step at a time, and different opportunities were presented. And I think it was designed that way. It's going to sound weird, but I believe I'm very grounded in my faith, and I believe that, God orders your steps for a certain reason. I never knew why I landed up in certain places, but I know now, being a judge, all of the experiences that I had very specifically helped prepare me for what I'm doing now. And I can't imagine doing this work having not had each of those experiences.
Mm.
So, as a public defender, I learned so much about trial work and being a trial attorney and an advocate, and how you present a case at trial, the rules of evidence and all the things that you have to know as a practicing lawyer advocating for people. And then when I was able to become a staff attorney for a superior court judge, and then I forgot that I did do a year as a clerk for the Northern District of Georgia as well. So I was also a federal law clerk for a year. And just being on the back end of seeing how decisions are made and helping the judge that I was working for make those decisions, and actually applying the sort of more I guess, non-sexy part of practice, but actually knowing the law and being able to complex legal issues, all of that is necessary, I think, to be a good judge. And yeah, I think it makes me very much more knowledgeable and prepared. I've been in the trenches, as a defense attorney. I've been in the trenches as a family law attorney. Those are two of the cases that I hear the most of. And so not only do I have the sort of subjective knowledge, but also the practical skills that have sort of come along with me doing different things before taking the bench.
I'm curious, is there like a case or a story that you could share with us that maybe informed the way that you do your work?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. I can't say that
Yeah,
there's
me.
one. Yeah, I
With
get that
family
question asked
law?
a lot. I get it asked a lot, and I feel like I let everybody down because I never have a
No.
really good answer. There
Aw.
have been so many cases and so many stories that have impacted me as a person, even aside from being a judge. I hate going back to, when I was a lawyer, but I was a lawyer for quite a bit of time before taking the bench. And, there are several stories that really touched me, of young people who may have found themselves in a situation, and were able to climb out of that situation with some intervention from the courts. I know a young man, for instance, as a young kid, who I think just got sort of with the wrong crowd in life. He came from a great family, parents really involved. But it's just one of those situations. And this is what I talk to my boys about all the time, is just knowing your surroundings and who you're with, because you may not have intentions on doing criminal behavior, but if you're with the wrong group of people, they can sort of bring you into a situation that you don't have any knowledge of. And so anyway, there was a kid that I represented who got into a pretty serious incident based on really just being with the wrong crowd. Luckily, he was able to overcome that and come out of that situation. It could have ended really in a lengthy prison sentence, but was able to sort of come out of that unscathed. by the grace of God, I think, and some good lawyering on my part, I think.
Mhm.
And he went on to graduate from college, and he now owns an accounting firm of his own. And he keeps in touch with me, from time to time. He has a family now, is doing well. But that's just one example, really, of people like him that I've been able to either help myself or to be able to see go through the courts, and really use the courts as a way to kind of change the trajectory of their life, because we see the stories of people who obviously, you know, are revolving doors. We see those all the time, but we don't often get to hear the stories of people who had redemption. And I guess I always want to remind people about that part of our justice system, because I think we don't hear enough about that.
I love that. And funny story. So I'm a boy mom too. I don't know if you have all boys, but I have
I
all
have
boys.
two boys. Yes.
So I always tell my boys, I pray all the time that if you are up to no good, that you get caught. Like I
Yep.
pray this over them all the time. And they're like, and I'm like,
You
I
know
don't
that.
because like I mean kind of to your point, right? We think of the cradle to prison pipeline, and like, listen, I'm from southern Los Angeles, Mexican
Oh yeah,
immigrants, like that is real.
it's
Okay.
very real.
It's very real. But
Very
then
real.
there's the other part where sometimes we are at crossroads where we can make decisions, like with my upbringing, like I had every opportunity to make really bad decisions, right? And get away with it. But I chose not to. And I think better off for it, not just externally, like I've never gone to jail or gotten into trouble, but like, internally, I have peace. I sleep all at night, knowing that I've not hurt anybody and not been malicious and not stolen, and
That's right.
so all those things, I think, are choices that we make. Yeah, there's societal pressures, but I think it's beautiful when, somebody like you with your background who like gets the two sides can be
Mhm.
in that position to
Right.
make the legal system do what it was, I think, intended to do at some point, which is
Right.
repair, rebuild,
That's
correct,
right.
redirect, right? Because
That's right.
it doesn't have to be about punishment, but I think, under certain, like opportunities or situation circumstances, others in your position might handle things just 1 degree off, and it can make all the difference in the wrong way, but you're making all the difference, I think, in the positive way to rebuild, because you have that awareness, and I don't think that there's, bad, like, people that do it maliciously. I just think it's just lack of awareness, lack of understanding.
Yeah, and I think that's so true. Thank you for saying that. I again, I'm grateful that I've had the experiences that I've had, not only in my career but growing up in the area that I grew up, because like you, I'm sure, having grown up where you are from,
Chicago.
you
Yeah.
know, yeah, you got to see a lot, right? And
Yeah.
I was around, a lot of people who, I knew who were involved in criminal activity, but I also knew some of their stories and circumstances that brought them there, and they were good people. So many people who commit crimes. I think we tend to think that they're all in the same category, right? There are, buckets of people, smaller buckets, who are really bad people, unfortunately, who commit really heinous crimes that are just not, sometimes may not be redeemable. At least in society standards. But most of the time, I come across people who have had a bad circumstance, and yes, they have to be held accountable. I certainly believe in accountability, but particularly for young people, there's always just such an opportunity for us to, like you said, repair and rebuild, so that they don't become recidivists, that so that they come out of the situation having been held accountable, but also hopefully where the court can see them and see the need and address those needs so that they don't repeat criminal
Yeah.
behavior. And a lot of young people are just young people who may not always make the best decisions, but that doesn't mean that they should be labeled for the rest of their lives. So, yes, I'm glad that I'm able to have that perspective. I don't think all judges do. I think most of us aspire to, at the very least. But, I think having a diverse bench is why, we all benefit. And when I say diverse, I don't necessarily mean, racial diversity. I think all types of diversity is important,
Yeah,
on the bench.
experiences, religion, all of it. Yeah,
All of it.
absolutely.
All
This
of
is
it.
so beautiful. So right now, are you open to having people get in touch with you? Are you still practicing law? Are you mentoring? Tell us
Great
about that.
question. Yeah, great question. So I serve as a full-time judge, so I no longer practice law. So I'm on the bench like every day, just about serving up justice in Gwinnett County. But I'm always happy to talk with lawyers, particularly young lawyers. I mentor young lawyers all the time. I mentor high school students, college students, law students who are interested in pursuing legal careers. um, I realize how much mentorship makes a difference when you're trying to figure out, where to take your law career, and just sort of the bumps that come along that, you don't anticipate. And so I love inspiring young people to pursue careers in the legal, field. I love talking to maybe newly admitted lawyers who are sort of trying to figure out their way. And so that is something I'm always receptive to. I always ask, tell people just give me a call or send me an email. I'm an open book, and I try to make time for that type of activity.
That's awesome. So, what piece of advice could you give somebody that's thinking about going into just, I'm sure you have so much advice, but if you could pick one for somebody that's thinking about and is listening to you and be like, wow, I want to follow that path. I want to be an attorney. I want to run a law firm. I want to be a judge. What's some advice that you find yourself giving often?
So there are a lot of things that I found helpful, but one of the most important things I would say is just to one, remember that your journey is your journey. I'm always happy to share about how, I ended up on the journey that I
Mm.
took. But I also remind people that, your journey is your journey, right? So your path may not look like mine, and you shouldn't try to take the path that I took. But you just, if you surround yourself by people who have maybe taken different paths too, I think that could be helpful. But another piece of advice, and again, I tell this to my sons all the time: have a spirit of gratitude, have a spirit of just kind-heartedness in everything that you do. Just be a good person, and put in the work. I think if you're a good person, you show gratitude, you treat people, kindly, and you put in the work. Really, whatever it is you see in front of you, you can conquer. And I, can tell stories about all the sort of adversities that I had to overcome, but with some persistence, a lot of prayer, and a lot of hard work. And again, just having a spirit of just being a good person. I think good things come to you. So, those are, I guess, sort of the two things I would think about as far as advice I could give.
That's wonderful. So I have one more question for you because I know I've already taken up so much of your time. What is, because this is the Care Sandwich podcast after all, what is your favorite sandwich?
Ooh. So I will have to say that my favorite sandwich is an Italian beef. So a lot of people probably don't even know what an Italian
No,
beef sandwich
know what
is,
that
but
is.
all of my people from Chicago will exactly know what I'm talking about. It's a juicy, like, sandwich made from like roast beef and au
Okay.
jus. And the au
Oh,
jus, there's different degrees of how you like your Italian beef. I like mine soaked in the au jus, and you put peppers on top of it. Some people like cheese on their Italian beef, but it's like a big sloppy roast beef sandwich with gravy, and it's delicious. It's really a popular sandwich in Chicago. I don't know if people from other parts of the country eat it. It's hard to find here in Georgia, I will tell you, but it is probably my favorite sandwich.
it sounds delicious, but I have to confess, like when you said Italian beef, I was like, problems with an Italian? That's where my circus brain went. I'm like,
I have no
what is
beef.
wrong with me?
I have no beef with Italian folk. Look, let me just put it out there. That
I'm
is
sorry.
really, that's
I can't.
really funny. That's a good one.
This is how my brain works. Anyways, this is why I don't drink, because I'm like this sober.
That is awesome. You know, now that I say, every time I say it now, I'm going to think about what you just said. That's a really great joke.
Thank you so much for laughing with me and not judging my horrible humor. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Care Sandwich. Remember, you can get in touch with Judge Regina Matthews, for advice, wisdom, and a little beef. We'll see you on the next episode of Care Sandwich. Bye.
Oh, gosh, that's really funny.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Care Sandwich. Remember, the way we care for our clients, our teams, and ourselves can make all the difference in our success. Until next time, keep caring, keep growing, and I'll see you on the next episode of